Hey folks, Olin here. Let's say that you want to start off your game with some sort of in-game character creation process, sort of like you'd see in a Bioware game or maybe an MMO. It's doable, and while it's not terribly difficult to create a series of events that manage to work, it's also incredibly simple to make the event far, far more complex than it even remotely needs to be. So let's look at what I think is a relatively simple implementation for character creation, right? Now, for this, you're just going to need the one actor slot, at least one variable for each choice you're giving the character. I'm using more, and I'll explain why in a bit. And personally, I like using a common event. It's not strictly speaking mandatory, but I find it a lot simpler. Also, if you're going to use character images in your show text events, then you're likely going to want to use a plugin for that. Personally, I like Yanfly's message core and its extension, but there are other options, such as Shaz's More Escape Codes plugin if you'd prefer. So anywho, let's take a look at this thing, shall we? Right, so it's relatively simple. You have the introduction little text here saying welcome to the game, here's a character creation event. It defaults you to male human warrior, and if that's the class you want, then you hit finished and it says you have chosen a male human warrior. Is that the character you'd like to play? And if you hit yes, it'll take you into the game, otherwise you can hit no and back into the selection process. So you can change that to female human warrior, female elf warrior, haha. You can go to female elf mage, or, well, no. You can go to human elf mage. I don't have any orc character stuff set up because I got really tired of making all these options. I have like 16 or so. Wait, no, I have, like 16 or so different little characters that I made with this, and I was just like, no, let's be boring. But yeah, so human male mage, there we go. And is this difficult? No, not really. Let me show you how it works. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to set up the variables for the event, right? You're going to need one variable for each option that you're giving your players. So I have 3, so I'm giving gender, race, and class. You can have as many or as few as you would like in your event. Important to note that descriptive variable names are better than non-descriptive ones. If you just name those A, B, and C, or just not even have any name down there at all, you might get partway through your game and for some reason want to decide to refer to like the race choice. You can have like a little text dialogue bit where, if the race is elf, then you want this, but if it's human, you want this. And you're trying to remember the variable because the last time you had to use it was a month ago, then if it's a descriptive variable, you can find it really simply. If it's not, you might look back on this and go, what the heck is B, right? So remember, descriptive, better. And then once you do that, you're going to want to initialize the variables. That way you won't run into a problem if you are calling some variable and there's nothing in there. Just always get in the habit when you have a variable, initialize it. So I'm setting it to 1 by default, right? Alright, so let's skip the common event for just a second and show you what's going on the next page. So here I have the choices for, select your gender, your race, your class, and if you're done or not, what was over on the side there. And then I have a little variable next to each one of those. I'll show you why I'm using that in just a second. And then when you select gender, it turns on the switch to go to that page, right? So race, class, it's pretty simple. I like it this way rather than in just one long, huge page, just because it's simpler, it's easier to look at. You're not, going back over the event and crossing your eyes because you have, 5,000 lines of everything. If you spread it out, it just is easier to follow and a lot nicer. So, but yeah, so then once you click on gender, it takes you to the option over here. So please select your gender. When male, control variable, gender choice 1, gender choice 2 for female, same for the race, right? Select the race, gives you the 3 options. If you select human, 1, 2, 3. Same for classes, warrior, ranger, priest, mage. Class choice 1, class choice 2, class choice 3. Yay, and then at the end of each one of these, it calls the common event of race, class, gender, and then turns the self switch off so it goes back to this page. So let me show you what's going on in the common event, right? All in all, it's pretty simple. It's just a bunch of nested conditional branches, right? So I have 2 main conditional branches that are checking the gender. So if it's gender choice 1, then it's male, so you do all of these options. and then if it's gender choice 2, it's female, and then you do all of these. I didn't set that up as a like else statement just because you might mess up at some point and choose, like, set it to gender choices 0 or 3 or something like that. And if you do it that way, then it's easier to notice when you've messed up because things won't change the way that you think they're supposed to, right? And then within the gender choice, I have three separate conditional branches for the race. So, you know, one for human, one for elf, and one for orc. And so that's mirrored in both for male and female. And then within each of the racial ones, it checks 4 times. So it goes, you know, if it's a warrior, if it's a ranger, if it's a mage, if it's a priest. So pretty simple. And then once it goes into the class, it has a change actor. So let's say you let's say you want a human priest, right? So if it is male, gender choice 1, race choice 1 of human, and then class choice 4 for priest, it'll call a change actor, and you just change the actor image to the one that you have set up. So here I have, you know, warrior, ranger, mage, priest, female, warrior, ranger, mage, priest. I have elf and human. I didn't do orc because I got very sad about making all the different characters. But so yeah, once you do that, then you actually go and change the class name, right? So, and then you change the class, base character to priest. It's pretty simple, and you just repeat that for every single one of these options. Also important to note, as I said, I have all these variables, so he, she, him, her, male, female, race name, and class name. And those are there for if you ever want to refer to the character by anything other than the name. So if you want to, you know, have someone call out, hey, stop that human, or stop that elf, or, you know, stop her, stop him, whatever, it's all there for you to use. You just need to type in the variable, as opposed to running a big branching. So, like, you know, if the gender is 1 or gender is 2, then, you know, you don't have to repeat the same amount of text, just with slight differences in pronouns or with races or with whatever. It's just all there. You probably actually want to double the number of these variables. So capitalize he, she versus lowercase he, she, capitalize human, lowercase human, things like that, just in case you occasionally want to, you know, start a sentence with one of those bits versus not start a sentence with one of those bits. It will require that you remember all these variables in your game, assuming you're not using Yanfly's message core, because that has this lovely little extension that lets you type in macros. So you could actually just set the macro to / he, or / her, or / whatever you find easier to remember, whatever the base character is in your head. You can just type that, and then you can have it set to just call up whatever the current version is. But that's another video, I think. But yeah, so that's everything that's going on in the common event. It's really simple. It just, you know, takes a little bit to set up, right? And incidentally, even if you never plan to refer to the player character's gender or race or class or anything like that over the course of your game, it's nice to have those variables in there, just because that way, if you're running an event like this, you can have it set up so that it shows the current gender, race, and class by calling the variables in your choices. And it just looks a little bit more professional, a little bit nicer to have it react to the character's choices during the course of character creation. Actually, I might even go so far as to say it would be nice to have like change the color, so change it to like a gold or something like that for the current class, race, or gender. But yeah, that's just me. It just looks nicer. If for some reason you want to conserve common events, you can always put everything that was in the common event right up here at the start of this first page after initializing the variables, because that way you'll initialize the variables, it'll run through everything, and it'll set, you know, your race and class and gender, and then give you the options to choose your race, class, and gender, and then, you know, that'll go to whatever other page, and then once you turn the switch off here when you've made your choice, it'll pop right back up to the start here and run through all the event again, and then say, hey, do you want to change any of these? So it works the same, it just makes for a really, long drawn out event, and I like the common event more because that way if you want to have something in the future where you can maybe have your player change their class or change their gender or change their race or whatever, you can do that with a common event, whereas you can't if you just put it in the character creation event itself. You could also conceivably have all of this, all the things that I have under all these different event pages, just on one event page. Particularly if, for example, you want to offer more options than just gender, race, and class. You're going to run out of self switches, right? So let's see here. Just by way of example, let's take everything here in the gender selection section, right? So copy that, put it down here at the bottom, and then we're going to introduce a label, and let's do gender head, because sure, why not? And then up here, when it goes to gender, instead of control self switch, you would put a jump to label, and you would just put head, right? Gender head. And then down here, once you're done with the little gender section and running the common event, or maybe not running the common event, you might put that somewhere else, you can actually just set that to jump back up to the head label, or whatever label you want to put up at the very top. So that way it'll run to the choices. Once you pick your choice, it'll jump to whatever label that you want. Once it's done with that little section, it'll jump way back up top. It's not ideal, but that is a way to run all of that if you would perchance like. I find it a little bit awkward, but it works just as well as anything else. Anyway, once you're done giving the player all the options that you would like to give them, then they're going to click on finished or done or what have you, and then you want to give them an overview of what they've chosen, right? So you have chosen a variable 8, 4, and 5, and that is gender, race, and class. And I say, is that the character you'd like to play? You can put in, obviously, whatever you want, and then yes or no, right? So when no, you don't have to do anything. That'll just sort of start the whole thing over again. If you are running the bit where everything is in just one giant page and you're jumping to labels, you probably want to do a jump to head option there, but otherwise you can leave it alone. Then, if they click on yes, saying they're done, you want to give them the option to choose the player's name, so name input processing for whatever actor you have this set up to. I have it set up to actor 1 because why not? And then I transfer you to the first map of the game, and here it's just some, generic ready built-in map. So let's give this one more try. All right, so simple character creation event, let's go for elf mage. So you've chosen a male elf mage. Is that the character you'd like to play? No, let's go for, let's keep it elf, but let's go for female. And let's go for priest. So female elf priest. Yes, let's play as that character. Base character. Let's go for, oops, wrong button. Emily, I guess. I don't know. And then there we go. Yay! Emily. So look, she has her own little thing. Priest. Everything is fine. Everything's fine. And there you go. That is a very, very simple character creation for just one character. You're going to need to make a few adjustments if you're going to want to do it for multiple characters in a row, but that's still also doable. Anyway, hopefully this video helped you out. If you enjoyed it, hit the like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And till next time, folks. Later.